Ukraine's counter-offensive is gathering momentum. First, they claim to have retaken 3,000 square kilometers. Now, almost 6,000 square kilometers. Just to put that in perspective, that's around the size of America's Delaware state. Now, right at the beginning, let me say this, we cannot verify this claim by Ukraine. Their president did not offer any proof while making it. Listen in.
Since the first days of September and until today, our warriors have liberated more than 6,000 square kilometers of the territory of Ukraine in the south and in the east. The advances of our forces continue.
6,000 square kilometers is debatable, but here's what we can say. Ukraine is certainly making some military progress. Have a look at these pictures. They are from the city of Vovchansk in the northeast. Ukrainian soldiers were seen ripping out Russian banners from supermarkets. They also burnt Russian flags. So there is no denying that Ukraine is making progress. The question is, how much progress? The US says Russia has ceded most of its gains. Russian soldiers are now crossing back into their country, which raises the question, how exactly did Ukraine pull this off? According to Russian officials, it was all about the numbers. Ukraine had 8 times more soldiers.
But speaking about the manpower that has been amassed there for the Ukrainian army's counter-defense, it outnumbered our forces approximately by 8 times, not less. Therefore, I think Russian command decided to retreat and regroup in order to preserve our personnel.
But this battle is very much on. Since the soldiers are retreating, Russia has changed its strategy. They are carrying out airstrikes on Kharkiv. Take a look at this power substation. It was damaged by a Russian missile strike soon after the city's public infrastructure lost power, including the underground trains. Another strike hit the police headquarters. At least one person was killed in the attack. Videos showed firefighters struggling to control the blaze. So Russia has opted for a classic military strategy. They are outnumbered on the ground, so they have opted for aerial attacks, strategic aerial attacks. Ukraine believes Russia is trying to cut off power and water supplies to Kharkiv, basically squeeze the counterattack. What does this say about the Russian military? Well, it depends on who you ask. Western intelligence is calling it an absolute failure. They say Russian soldiers are abandoning their position and weapons, but Russia denies this. They are calling it a regrouping effort. You see, Moscow is now focused on eastern Ukraine, basically the Donbas region. So they say this is not a retreat, this is a recalibration. And perhaps it is. But it still exposes the weakness of Russia's military. Just think about it. If you cannot fight a two-front battle, how can you call yourself a superpower? On paper, Russia is way more powerful than Ukraine. They have more jets, more tanks, more missiles, yet they had to retreat from Kharkiv. And this will be a huge morale booster for Ukraine. But will it translate into bigger strategic gains? That depends on the West. You see, Ukraine's counterattack is not a random military operation. It was planned to send out a message, not just to Russia, but also to the West. Let me explain this. For 200 days, Russia dictated this war. The pace, the area of operation, everything was determined by Russia. Ukraine was merely responding to Putin's strategies. But this counterattack is different. It shows that Ukraine is capable of taking the fight to Russia, that Ukraine can beat Russia with the right equipment. And that is where the West comes in. This counterattack was made possible by Western weapons. So naturally, Ukraine wants more. They want to show the West that the weapons are making a difference, that this war is not a lost cause. Same with political support. Most of Europe is bracing for a very tough winter. Russia has already cut gas supplies via the Nord Stream pipeline. So support for Ukraine could be waning. European leaders could be forced to roll back some of the sanctions. So what does Ukraine do? They begin this counterattack. They show evidence of their military capabilities. Now the ball is in the West's court. They can either scale up military assistance or they can continue at the same rate. Right now, the West is looking for evidence. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says it's too early to take a call.
It is too early to tell exactly where this is going. The Russians maintain very significant forces in Ukraine, as well as equipment and arms and munitions. They continue to use it indiscriminately against not just the Ukrainian armed forces, but civilians and civilian infrastructure, as we've seen. The brutalization of the country continues by the Russian aggressor. There is, I think, unfortunately, the prospect that this continues to go on. But I think it's encouraging to see the progress that Ukraine has made.
Encouraging, but we would like to see more. That's the message from America. And as for Russia, they must re-evaluate their goals. Yes, they are focusing on Donbass, but this sort of a retreat can hurt military morale, and that is crucial for invading powers. After all, Russians are fighting for politics, Ukrainians are fighting to free their homeland. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.